Hi, it's the 3x5 guy. News, views, and reviews scribbled on index cards. Yeah, I'm still down in the bunker since the election. I just come up for these broadcasts and to get away from the blankety-blank spiders. Today's MAGA needs to grow some Spidey Sense, as in Spider-Man. Even though my views position me on the leftmost end of the liberal progressive spectrum, I had no qualms about setting aside concerns such as a truly equitable economy for this election cycle. I had no problem joining forces with establishment Democrats, never-Trumpers, and establishment Republicans. After all, that is what a besieged people does in a war. The enemy of my enemy is my friend and all that. Post-election, neither do I have any interest in jumping on the Democrats should have done this, Democrats should have done that bandwagon. I don't think it's fair to nitpick Democrats for whatever one thinks they did wrong. Sure, the Harris campaign could have relied less on analytics and appealed more to the young on college debt relief and Israel's war crimes. And it could have appealed more to everybody by leaning all the way into raising the minimum age and paid sick leave. But basically, I think that Democrats were trying, in good faith, to navigate a maze to a mythical center where they imagined the fabled swing voter resided. What transformed that from a maze, just a maze, into an impossible to navigate labyrinth was that exactly what these voters wanted was evanescent and inchoate. Big words for YouTube. That is, their perceived needs mutate and their ideas for fulfilling them are not fully formed. Trying to appeal to an electorate that refuses to inform itself is the definition of a fool's errand. Until now, we have all been in emergency mode trying to stop the election of Trump. Now that those efforts have failed, we will be living with the consequences of that failure for the foreseeable future and likely beyond. The silver lining of that is that one can now initiate long-term projects. The one that most intrigues me is rendering the term, quote, low information voter, unquote, obsolete. Just some introductory remarks today. I think I look at Trump voters a little different from others who on the aforementioned progressive spectrum do. Yes, they are ignorant. To put it bluntly, they don't know much about anything. Worse, they don't know themselves. They claim they trust their gut. But what is that other than a first impression based on emotion? They suffer from an inability to take the next step in perception towards intuition. In other words, they are conspicuously lacking in Spidey Sense. Neither are they able to pick up on when an individual is untrustworthy, nor that they are being sold a bill of goods. Actually, those are features of Spidey Sense. Lacking intuition not only makes one susceptible to dishonest politicians who don't have your best, make that any, interests at heart, it makes you susceptible to all kinds of scams. From ever-evolving email ploys to snail mail, all those official mailers that people can't distinguish from advertising, to phones, plastered with ads as they are, to the web, and worst of all, to political media that act as direct pipelines to one's lizard brain. People wind up trusting what they shouldn't and not trusting what they should. While intuition always requires clues, such as feeling when a prey is near while hunting, or locating fish while fishing, it essentially doesn't require book learning. In other words, it's a knack, a feel. It's not difficult and becomes second nature. Just ask Peter Parker. Here's an example from my life of how intuition emerged within me. When I was 18 years old in 1968, Richard Nixon was running for president. How could people vote for him, I wondered. He's so weird. One clue was that he talked like he thought was what a president should sound like. So official sounding, so phony. And as time went on, everything he said seemed like he was trying to get stuff over on Americans. Again, this is not an advanced form of perception. This stuff is pretty obvious if you allow yourself to see it, feel it, experience it. In fact, intuition is a bipartisan trait that everyone needs in today's world. How to recognize scams is taught in schools in places such as Finland. It could be taught in schools totally without a political angle, just a financial. But because it requires educating people about sourcing and research, conservatives would block it because they don't want voters to be equipped with the means to see through the propaganda and conservative media spews out. Neither does conservative-dominated big business wish to see Americans educated about learning about how to avoid rip-offs, nor do they wish to see the power of advertising blunted. Again, this is easy. It doesn't require study or knowledge. It's just learning a skill, one that we already have inside us if we just let it emerge. Regarding sourcing and research, we come to the second element. I view most of those who vote for Trump as political groundhogs. Once a year, like a groundhog, or every 4 years, the voter, they come out of hibernation and sniff the air. Whichever way the prevailing winds, read family and friends, blow, they vote. While hibernating, they missed not only January 6th, but the January 6th Select Committee hearing, aka the greatest series of all time. Not to mention Trump's rallies, as well as his speeches, interviews, of course his trials, which, because parody relies on exaggeration for effect, his speeches and interviews and rallies, which couldn't be parodied, because while parody relies on exaggeration for effect, they rendered parody and exaggeration impotent and obsessive, because there is no space for exaggeration. I think you know what I mean, though I didn't express it that well. Now, to return to the low information voter. All things considered, one of the great American ironies is that low information voters still exist in the information age. Undecided voters actually claimed, "We don't know Harris." With the glut of information available, that amounted to an embarrassing admission that they were unwilling to lift a finger to fulfill their civic responsibility. Many of those who claim not to know will spend hours of research and weeks of contemplation on the purchase of an outdoor grill, but they couldn't be bothered to look up Kamala's platform. If you are not willing to take the time to watch the debate or her speeches and interviews to get the measure of the woman, you could at least have asked ChatGPT something like, where does Kamala Harris stand on immigration? In 7 seconds, you would have had an answer. Some might be as suspicious of ChatGPT as they are of, in their words, the lamestream media, because a 2023 British study found ChatGPT biased towards liberal. Wait, isn't that just a bias toward the truth? And maybe because they have heard that OpenAI chief Sam Altman has contributed to Democrats, using ChatGPT might seem like a non-starter for them. At one point, Trump accused Google of being biased, and the Republican National Committee, actually filed a lawsuit accusing Google of that, but a federal court dismissed it. In other words, if you don't trust Google and ChatGPT, you are painting yourself into a paranoid corner. And people call me a tinfoil hatter. I would urge conservatives and the undecided to try ChatGPT. It can even explain why positions are viewed as left or right. What's more, it's exciting to watch it in action. Though, to tell the truth, I'm still stuck. I'm kind of a Luddite, still stuck at the discovery of radio waves. Yes, I'm aware that many subconsciously fear learning truths, which, if acted upon, would threaten their status within their in-group of friends and family. Ever heard the phrase, quote, mundus vult decipi, ergo decipiatur, unquote? I took 2 years of Latin in high school. That's how old I am. And was an altar boy in the old Latin Mass. That's how old I am. Which required learning to recite a fair amount of Latin. But I had never heard that. Courtesy of a Facebook friend, I learned that it translates to, the world wants to be deceived, so let it be deceived. I will close with the words of John Lydon, once known as Johnny Rotten. Quote, this is what you want, this is what you get. Well, back to the bunker.